Welcome to the Nerd Armory. My name is Miles, and today we're going to be talking about my experience with the Peopoly Magneto X. Now, I'd like to say that I'm recovering from a very severe man cold that my wife would say, and please forgive my voice if I've got anything going on. I've also got a little bit of background noise. My camera has been overheating, and so I have the AC blasting right now. I'd like to go over a few things. So this is a really cool printer. I like to think that this is kind of like a Voron in a way, that it has a lot of parts that a lot of people install on their Vorons, except for one key difference, that you do away with belt and belt maintenance for rail maintenance and add a magnetic linear rails, which is really cool. It allows you to move around a lot heavier weight with precision. Now, this bed that is on this printer is not the traditional square bed. It is a rectangular bed, which was a massive selling point for me. The build volume is 300 by 400 by 300. So the square beds have never really been a huge thing for me. If you're printing like really small things and you're like loading up 100 of them on the bed, that's cool. But sometimes there are certain uses where I have certain use cases where a square bed doesn't really do anything for me, and I actually have to like scale something down or just not do it at all, whereas a rectangular bed would serve me greatly. So this was a really big selling point for me. It boasts print speeds up to 800 millimeters a second, acceleration up to 22,000, flow rates up to 65 millimeters cubed per second, which is really cool. So it has three melt zone hot end nozzle setups. The short, it has separate. You can buy it separate if you would like. I'm actually just going to really quickly pull it up on my screen here. So the short has a flow rate of 35 millimeters cubed per second. The standard, which is what comes installed on the printer, has a flow rate of 45 millimeters cubed per second, and the long melt zone setup, that it actually comes with it. You just have to install it if you would like to and take out the standard. It has a flow rate of 60 millimeters cubed per second. Now, I will say that in my experience, I don't need the long one. The standard size one is doing just fine. I have like this filament right here. This is a 600 millimeters a second filament, and this is all the way up. This is a test from, I think it was like 200 millimeters to 600. The 600, as you can see, completed completely fine. You know, and it boasts it can go up to 800 millimeters a second, this printer. So I mean, if you need the long melt zone to have like crazy flow rates, it can do it. The pros and cons, actually I'll do the pros and cons a little later. I will say that the unboxing and my first impressions were honestly really good. The unboxing was a pretty good experience. The guide is, for the most part, exceptional. There is a couple of steps that perhaps might be a little old that I ran into. I will point those out here in a minute. Massive thing I'm going to point out is that the tools that come with it are great. They're fantastic. They're still like mass-produced kind of tools, but you can tell that there is still a level of quality and polish that they have that other printers just don't supply you with. Something in particular is the crescent wrench that comes with this. I had to buy myself one for my bamboos, just because there was a particular use case that I would have liked a quality crescent wrench. This one comes with it. I love that the Allen keys are different colors. When you're doing maintenance on this printer and I'm going to be doing this thing, you're going to need the green one. I definitely love just being able to go straight to the one I need with bamboo. I've got a couple that are in like a set near my bamboo printers, and I usually just grab the wrong one. It's a little annoying, but you can tell that there's a little bit more attention to detail with the tools that come with this printer, so definitely a huge plus. They also supply you with a full roll, a 1 kilogram roll of their PETG carbon fiber filament, which I think is awesome. Bamboo, I bought many of those printers, and the half roll or quarter roll or whatever you get with them, I usually just throw out because the colors I don't even print with. I think on the last one I may have kept it because they were colors that I do print now, but I've in the past just thrown them away. To have a full PTG carbon fiber roll is really cool. I will say, for those people who might want to experiment with carbon fiber filament, look up a video on YouTube about them. You will want gloves. They are incredibly sharp, and the fibers come off of the filament into your skin, and you will pretty much never get them out. You don't want to mess with that. So I'm a little hesitant to use it, but it is cool. They give you a full roll. All of my tests have been done with PLA because I print mostly in PLA. I will say the printer is pretty heavy. You will see I sort of struggle to get it out of the box. I tested in the beginning and it didn't seem too bad. It's just when it sort of hit that upper body strength, it comes on a pallet. I'm not a relatively tall man, so once it got to a certain point, getting it like the extra couple of inches over that lip was a little tough, but once you get it out, you'll see that I quickly realize just how big this printer is and how heavy it is. I planned to put this on the second shelf of my shelves. I don't know if that's even going to be possible now because of how heavy it is. I really suggest 2 people, unless you're like a crazy strong lad. It would just be a better idea. The box suggests 2 people as well. I can definitely understand that. I've always just never had anyone that can help me do these things, so I just have to do it. But getting on the floor, you can see really how big it is. Getting it on the table, it's on my dining table now. This printer is rigid. This thing can throw around weight like no one's business, and because it's so rigid, it's not moving itself, it's moving everything else around it. So I'll show you a clip here of the flowers on that table shaking, sometimes aggressively, sometimes not, depending on the acceleration being pushed into the printer. I will say I'm going to show you the fan noise right now. That is what I think is the 100% fan blowing at 100% noise. This thing doesn't have any cooling issues. Bamboo, when I set it up, I could tell it was like one of the lesser features. Their cooling was just not quite what I would have liked. And in an open source platform like this printer, you can modify it and install a bigger fan if you want, but obviously with Bamboo you can't. So this thing has crazy cooling. I've not had any problems at all. I mean, as you saw, I printed 600 millimeters a second. That had no problems at all. My overhangs, I'm definitely throwing around speeds much faster too. I haven't done an overhang test yet. I am eager, but it does a very good job. It's just very loud. There is, from what I could tell, there was like a mod that quiets them a little bit, but I do have the enclosure that I'm yet to install with it, so I don't know if I'm going to need it. I have seen that it like quietens the fans quite a lot, but just know that when this thing gets going at 100% fan speed, it's a jet engine. It's a jet engine. Another thing in the unboxing process that I will point out is there's these yellow guards that protect the linear rails. They come zip tied around the rails. You'll use the cutters to cut the zip ties. Please use the cutters on top of the yellow protectors to cut the zip ties. If you decide, like me at one point, that you can't quite get it under one of the zip ties and you bring it down lower, the magnets on this thing are insane. And so the cutter's made out of metal. That thing really pulled down the cutter, and I actually did, as you'll see here, I dented the metal sheet that protects the magnets. This sheet stays on the printer. You don't really want to mess this up. You'll see that the magnetism on this is really strong. That's not balancing on it. That is magnetized to it. And with considerable force, it took me quite a bit to really pull it off of it. And you'll see I actually scuffed it again, just for video demonstration of how crazy powerful they are. So please be very careful not to damage that. Please cut the zip ties over the yellow protective protection things. On the rails, you may find, it's likely that you'll find debris, some worse than others. I don't think mine was that bad. I've seen other people have it worse. I think it's just sort of how it's shipped or how it's stored, because magnets, you will want to clean that with a microfiber very well and carefully. Take your time with it. You don't want any of this debris to get up into the rest of the gantry or anything else. Do the X and the Y. In one of the steps of the unboxing guide, it doesn't suggest it may suggest, but it tells you use WD-40 to run. I just used a paper towel up and down. Well, I guess depends which rail you're looking at, but on one of the rails you'll see here there's like a lip on the bottom, and I'm using that WD-40 on a brush in that, and then a paper towel, and you'll see that there's just a little bit of dirt, or it honestly could be old grease as well, but I wanted to really make sure it was clean and then re-lubricate it. And this is going to be a common thing you're probably going to want to do on this printer, is lubricate these rails really well. I think I was having some print quality issues that I will point to later in the video, that I think lubricating these rails really well helped. You definitely don't want any resistance on these rails, so don't skip this step. I also lubricated the rods while I was at it. I just spent all the time, I'm like, right, I'm here to unbox it, I'm here to do it right. So I did. In one step, it does tell you to retighten anything that may be loose on the printer. The very first hex screw that I go to tighten, you'll see here. Yeah, it snapped. It was just an aesthetic acrylic piece, and so I decided that I would not try to tighten anything on this printer. I haven't had any issues, so at least that's related to what I think is anything that's loose. So I think I've either gotten lucky or it comes really tight, but it just sucks. The very first thing I decided, all right, I'm going to try this, I didn't realize it was just an acrylic piece that was aesthetic, and it just snapped. I'm pretty sure you take these off to put the enclosure on anyway, so it's not really a big deal. But please be aware, don't tighten these down. Another tip, when you're installing the filament guide, there's these, I think it was 4 screws. You also, at the same time, install the filament spool holder. So the spool holder comes with this like cylinder on it. Don't install the cylinder yet. Install that afterwards. It just gets in the way of these 4 screws. Just thank me later. It was really frustrating to try and tighten these screws with that on. I was in like a really awkward place where undoing the cylinder would have been annoying, so I left it on, so it made everything worse. So just, yeah, leave that on until the end. The screen that comes on it is very nice. I definitely appreciate a very nice quality screen. It's very, and like the boards that run it are very responsive. I love the Clipper UI and everything. It's definitely a real joy to have a UI that looks good and runs well. Not to say that anything the Bamboo doesn't, other than the P1S. I hate the P1S screen and the way that looks, I must say. When you level the gantry, you will need, actually, back up 1 second. So there is one step that I think is old. It asks you to move the tool head around to make sure there is no resistance before you do absolutely anything. Now, my motors were locked, and I don't know if it's specified to unlock them with a button that is on the bottom of the printer. There's like 2 LEDs that are green, and the left one unlocks the motors. I didn't do that. I don't know if the guide says to. I skipped it if it did, but if it doesn't, I think it's outdated. I went to move it and it wouldn't, so I was like really applying force, and it finally gave way and I got an error. Now later on, when I went to level the gantry, it also still gave me an error. I cleared this up by just turning off the printer and turning it back on again. So just be advised, don't do that. If you're applying a little bit of pressure and it's not moving, don't apply pressure. When you do the gantry leveling, for the very first time, it specifies very clearly, when the bed is coming up, take the spatula and apply pressure twice to the nozzle, it tells you to do that and not to use the bed the very first time. So listen to that. I didn't want to find out what would happen if I didn't, but it was a very simple and straightforward process. After that, you don't have to do it again. You might level the gantry in the future at some point, but you don't have to use the spatula. Now, the gantry leveling did take a while, and you'll probably see at some point that when you do that, it not like something leaves the screen and it looks like it's now no longer doing anything. Just be patient. You will actually see that the bed is heating up very slowly. It's a big bed. It has to heat it to 60. But there's just nothing on screen showing you that it is still doing something. So, yeah, really pay attention to that. You're going to run the bed mesh after that as well. That will take a little bit of time. Once it does that, the printer will turn back off and turn back on again, or rather the Clipper OS will just restart, and then it has saved that bed mesh. You can go back into bed mesh, calibration bed mesh, and then default and see your bed. My bottom left was a little off, but it didn't surprise me when I found out that the insulation underneath my bed was a little sagging in that corner, so I just pushed it back up. I figure if it's probably a little bit better insulated, it'll probably heat better, and it'll just have a little bit better of a time having a level bed. But again, I haven't really had any real issues throughout this entire process. I also want to mention that if you have any issues with the Wi-Fi not appearing when you go to actually load the Wi-Fi, there is a guide that helps you try to do it like a different way. But how I solved this issue was I just turned the printer off and then back on again a couple of times, and then eventually my Wi-Fi actually showed up. It may take you a few times, but that's how I got around it, and then I was able to set up my Wi-Fi. Now, after all that, I jumped straight into the slicer. I went straight into calibration mode, obviously things you don't have to really do with Bamboo, but other printers you do. So I jumped straight into flow rate, sent it straight through the printer. I honestly was over the moon. I was over the moon at this point. Everything looked quite good, even though on that particular calibration test, pieces of the print is supposed to look bad. You're supposed to be dialing in like which part looks really good and which doesn't. So you'll see in the clip that some don't look great, but a couple of them look really good. So far, really good experience. Now, I will say it's at this point I decided to print a Benchy. I'm not a Benchy person, but I do know that people are probably going to want to see a Benchy, so I printed a Benchy, and I realize at this point that the Benchy doesn't look quite as good as I would want. It's probably not bad, but there was like this waviness to it that I just sort of like was taken aback by. I then did it with, as you can see, silk as well, which accentuates the weirdness. And so I'm looking at that thinking, okay, now I really need to dial that in. And this is where we get to the pros and cons list. So for the pros, again, great tools. I was very appreciative to receive everything that I need, and it looks like I'm not going to have to go out and buy something a little bit better. It looks like I've just got what I need, and they're great quality. So I was very happy to see that. I was honestly shocked when I started to unbox these things. The unboxing experience was very good. The guide, for the most part, was the most thought out of the guides, all of the guides that I have seen. It has really good quality hardware. The metal that is used for it is very sturdy. Everything is like the engineering that's gone behind it is very well thought out. Now, that saying that, I have one of the iterations that has just been dialed in. Some people have had this printer for a year, and like a year ago they had a pre-order, and those people have had plenty of issues. My version that came has had all those issues sorted. So as of this video, most videos online are going to have some sort of negativity to them because the printer they had issues and they needed to change things. It was kind of like more of a demo model. The one that I have is much less of a demo model. It is more of a product that has been thought through and fixed. So as of right now, there's almost no one making content on this. I watched every single video that was made on all platforms for this printer before I bought it. And yeah, this was just like the newest variation. I confirmed before I bought it, like, is this going to have everything that all these people have had parts sent that they had to install? It's going to come on this printer. And they said yes. It does have like a custom firmware that will get updated every now and then. I will say, though, that's also kind of a con as well, that sometimes you may have to wait. If you don't want to do your own stuff, you may have to wait for them to update it. And there has been time that has passed between these updates that I think people would probably have wanted to be a little faster. But the fact there is a custom firmware means that they're doing things specifically for this printer that no other person is doing. Then I think that is, for the most part, a lot of people don't really want to muck around with that. So that there's a pro and a con to that. The specs for the printer are great, like the speed and acceleration, etc. I think that the specs, that's a pro. The bed shape is a massive pro. The build volume is enough for most people, but the actual bed shape is a pro. It comes with a full roll of useful filament, so that's a plus. The customer service is pretty good. I would have said really fantastic, but I will explain very briefly why I say it's good. They are in the Discord, they are in the Facebook groups, they are responsive to emails for the most part. They're on top of people's issues, unless, you know, you're getting help from other people on the Discord or the groups. You know, they won't step in if they don't need to. I have emailed a couple times. The first email took a little while to get back to me, and that kind of, look, things happen. Maybe it was the weekend or something, I don't know, so I don't hold it really against them all that much. There may have been a breakdown in communication once, so that was a little annoying, so I thought maybe they had the wrong idea of what I was trying to say. But for the most part, my experience with the customer service, and from what I've heard from most other people, their experiences have been very very good. So still a massive pro compared to other printing companies. To put customer service in the pro is pretty hard, so that's really cool. Small and tight community, ready to help people out. That's a huge plus. It has great flow rates, and it has great cooling. On to cons, the print quality does need dialing in. I have only just now had a little bit of a breakthrough with the print quality. Until this recent breakthrough, the quality was at a point where I may have actually tried to return the printer, but I have something going right now, and I think I'm much happier with it, to the point that I'm definitely going to keep it. Miles from the future with a very important message. I definitely will be keeping this printer. The print that I just mentioned had finished a little while ago, and I'll throw up some footage here showing the pretty clear difference between what I was getting before, and this is after having dialed it in a bit. And then having dialed in what I did recently, the difference is night and day. And in fact, I have one of these printed with my bamboo next to it. And while you can still tell which one is the bamboo, when I came into the room, I actually picked up the Magneto X's version and thought that it was the bamboo's version. And so I am very happy with this printer so far, and I still think that there is more dialing in that I can do. So, yeah. My overall experience, I was going to say, was a 7 out of 10, but that's because of the print quality issues. And if the print quality issues went away, it was really more of like a 9 out of 10. But keeping the printer was contingent on whether I could dial in the quality or not. It seems like I'm going to be able to, so stay tuned. I will be making an updated video for that. Motor tuning. You're going to need to tune the motor a little bit, and I must say that this is a little bit of a tedious process. I will be making a video about this as well, so those who just want to run down step by step, they can just follow what I'm doing and not have to worry that much about maybe doing something wrong. Another con is that the fan is loud, but of course that means it has great cooling, so, you know. The macros that drive Clipper, that drive the printer, you will probably want to tweak. The start macro and the end macro specifically, I have changed to be very different, and I'm much happy with it. Again, another video that I'm going to make. It doesn't come with lighting. The enclosure is separate. If you at some point want a chamber heater with the enclosure, you may not be able to, just due to the hardware that goes with the linear rails, that you might heat them up and it might not really like it very much. But in saying that, some people have felt that they don't need a chamber heater when they have the enclosure on. It stays toasty and really consistent inside, so you may not need a chamber heater. And it also has very aggressive vibration, to which I will also have another video going up for a little bit of a potential solution. So plan videos. I'm planning to do a video dialing in the print quality, putting the enclosure on, installing good quality, like good lighting. There is a beacon scanner that I'm going to put on it so that bed leveling is much more accurate and much quicker. There are wipers that you can install, and there is a jet stream fan that you can also put on it to like the auxiliary fan in the bamboos that blow air across the bed. A video on macro tweaks, like I said, the print start and all of these sorts of things, just little tiny tweaks that you can just copy paste and not have to deal with figuring out what you're actually doing. I'm going to be doing tests on fast printing filaments. I'm very excited about this. There is actually some changes that Polymaker has done, and a lot of their stuff has gotten faster, so I'm going to be putting those through all of the tests that I can think of. And there is a feat called a hula feat that absorbs vibration, and I'm going to be doing a video about that as well on the Magneto and the bamboos, because you can get them and print them for both and see what that does, but especially for the Magneto because of the acceleration that it has. If it can absorb a lot of that vibration, that would be amazing, I think. And I think that would probably even translate to potentially a little bit better print quality as well. Anyway, so I hope that I've touched on everything that you were interested in finding out. If you have any other questions, put them down in the comment section below. I'd be happy to help. You can join the Discord and find me there, or join the actual Magneto, the Peopoly Discord, find me there as well. Again, have all those videos coming your way, so subscribe if you're interested, especially in this printer, but just printing in general. I'm going to be putting out far more content. I do have a TikTok. I'll put that in the description. Even if you're not a TikTok person, you may be interested. Just, I don't know. I feel like my videos on TikTok can be a little bit informational, but also informational. I'm still sick, okay? My brain's not working right. Informative, but also funny, so you might like it. Go and follow me there if you like. All right, my camera overheated, so I'm going to end the video here. Thank you. Please subscribe. Please like the video if this content was good. It helps out more than you could possibly know, and share it with anyone that you think might be interested in this printer. There's, again, no one making content on this printer, so I'm probably going to be one of the very few people doing content with this new iteration of the Magneto, and I'm very excited to be bringing you more content with it. It's a printer that I really want to love and think that I do love, and I want other people to know about it, and it may be something that you're interested in. So thanks so much, guys. Enjoy your day, night, weekend, whatever. Peace.